Hello, and welcome to the discussion panel on the power of data in financial services. The financial services industry has always been early adopters of analytical practices, be it use of advanced analytical models or democratizing use of data through agile platforms like Tableau. Today, more than ever, data empowers decision makers to better navigate their businesses through these uncharted waters on a day-to-day basis. Although advanced analytical models can help predict outcomes, they require time to train, validate, and test the models with one fundamental input: data with similar historical patterns. And as we all know, there is no event in the recent past that can mimic the pandemic situation that we find ourselves in today. So, what has become essential is the agile nature of discovering and exploring data to come up with decisions that can not only minimize losses, but also come up with policy and products that can help organizations and their customers not only feel secured, but also continue to grow in some avenues of their business and portfolio. Fortunately, I have been on both sides of the table, having worked with banks in the past and now working across industries to help people see and understand data. I'm looking forward to the discussion to understand how the financial services industry today harnesses the power of data. To take us through the journey, I, Prashant Dutta, will be your host, and it's my absolute pleasure to have with me today Mr. Billie Setiawan from Bank Mandiri and Mr. Dion Thorpe from AIA Singapore. Billie heads the Enterprise Data Management Group at Bank Mandiri Indonesia. Billie manages a team of analysts that cover business and advanced analytics, campaign analytics, and information and data management practices. Billie has over 16 years of banking and analytics experience. On the other hand, Dion is a senior manager in the enterprise data analytics team that looks after a BI center of excellence that drives all Tableau related projects within AIA Singapore. Dion and his team empowers the business to use Tableau and become more data-driven. Dion has an overall experience of over 14 years with prior experience in banking as well. Welcome, Billie and Dion. Dion, I'm going to start this discussion with you, and I want to jump right in and get your perspective at a very, very high level of how data is transforming the financial services industry today.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Yeah, I think it's really transforming the industry in many ways. I think the big part is around the customer experience and what the customers are getting from the companies. So we look at sort of like personalization of journeys of customers coming to AIA, and as well, when we look at the data, we actually develop products based on the customer data that we do have, or the sales information that we do have in the past. So I think from a customer perspective, the customer experience is a lot better these days because we're using the data to build those propositions for them. And I guess internally, I think sort of it's changing the organisation in the sense that data is becoming a key asset to the organisation. And I believe that sort of everybody needs to understand data within the organisation. So you're really seeing this transformational shift internally in the company as well, which is great.
Billie, I want to get your thoughts on this as well, but especially in context of the market that you operate in.
Yeah, I think data is becoming very important, and then especially in the financial industry, right? Not only Bank Mandiri, but also our competitor bank, right? I think now we are competing in how do we use data to really make a decision making for the organizations, right? So I think it's evolving very much for the past few years, and data analytics team is becoming very, very important to make sure that we are helping them to make any decisions and looking forward what would be the strategy going forward in terms of because it's changing, right? I think the world is changing from especially during the pandemic. I think the way that the customer behavior, how do we the experience of how we should give to the customers is also changing, right? So I think we look at into how how it's really changed very much for the past few years. Yeah, in Indonesia, especially in financial industry. Yeah.
So sticking with you, Billie, on the next one as well, and as is to build on top of what you just shared, you worked with Citibank for a long time before Bank Mandiri. So while I know things have changed now, but looking at an approach of using data, do you think there's a difference in perspective from a global bank versus a local bank?
Definitely, I think when we compare with Citi before, I think the Citi has been using data and analytics for many years already. Right? I think from a basic data understanding, the structure of data, all the way to how they are evolving in terms of the analytics skills is really different, right? And now the local bank, especially where I'm working at this moment in Bank Mandiri, I think we are moving towards there. How do we look into data? How do we understand the data, and how can we use data for anything, for the business as well as for anything in the organizations, right? So from the fundamentally, it's not going to be different, but now we just have to really speed up our knowledge and skills to make sure that we are there, we are up to speed from data analytics perspective. Yeah.
Dion, something similar, but in your case, you've actually had the best of both worlds, right? So you've been in both insurance and banking, and interestingly, in different geographies. So how does that experience, right, help you in developing product strategies and transformation in your current role at AIA Singapore?
Yeah, sure. So I think for me, sort of coming from the banking experience, we went through the Basel Accord, where we had to sort of get the bank data in alignment for our regulatory reporting. That allowed banks to actually get their data sorted so that they could then start to use it for, analytics and that kind of thing. So I had seen a lot of that stuff. We were doing a lot of that stuff back in the banking days, about sort of 10 years ago. So now I sort of come into insurance and I go, okay, cool. I'll come from that. This is what you can actually do. And largely they're similar types of businesses, right? We're selling products, financial services products through different distribution channels. And so with that, I have sort of brought that also to Singapore with insurance up here as well. So I think the difference between Australia and Singapore, like there is a little bit of a difference, but I think largely it depends on sort of the company that you're landing in and whether they've invested in that. Banks are ahead of insurance at the moment, I believe. I mean, we're on that transformation journey, and I think it's an exciting time again because there's lots of work to be done.
So with that perspective, and especially on how data is being used by you and your organization, the next question that I have is both for you, is for both of you. But I'm going to start with Dion on this first. What everyone who's listening in would like to understand is these are conversations that we also typically have with our customers, is how do you measure ROI with regards to investment made in Tableau in your organization? And if you could actually share some use case or some case study just to contextualize, how that ROI could be, looked at. So Dion, I'll go with you first, and then Billie, I'll come to you with that same question.
So I think, the big win for me that I see is that there's the speed to insight, or speed to decision being made within the organisation to shape the strategy of what we should be doing going forward. And I think, that's probably been some of the best stuff that I've seen within sort of my 14 years. Is it used to take a long time to get to a point, whereas now you can automate things on the server and, get your data automated so that, your dashboard is just ticking over every day or every half day, or however long you're doing that. So for me, that's fantastic. I think that's a big win there, as opposed to having teams working on crunching data just to get something out by the end of the day. You can actually have it all automated and have it all built and make it easier for people to understand through visualization. So I think that's been really good, and it really helps. And then we also supplement some of our sort of core data with some of the other data that we do have around sort of our vitality program, that kind of thing. And so I see sort of a lot of the organisation really understanding the customers better when you start to bring sort of two different domains of data together, then you can really start to understand our customers and what the product propositions need to be for those customers, and whether those products are stale or whether we need to develop new ones and that kind of thing. So I think the ROI for me, while it's not necessarily so quantitative, I think you see that real benefit in the turnaround times of decisions being made, and the faster we get through a lot of those decisions, the better outcomes there are for the organisation. And it also means that we can move on to the more exciting things, right? So not just doing your dashboarding, your reporting, but getting into the more of the advanced analytics through the evolution of the analytics. Yeah.
Absolutely. Billie, your thoughts on the same?
Yeah, I think for us, the important thing for to look into the ROI for Tableau is that really first how can everyone in the bank really use Tableau, and not only in the head office perspective, but also any user can see Tableau is our centralized platform for any information that we have in the bank, right? I think from the technology perspective, I think crunching data is what Dion said has been taken care by the technology. We have quite a latest technology already. So now we focusing on how can we socialize and make sure that we are establishing the way that we look at information is now different compared to many years ago, and how can really Tableau can giving more insight or can do a lot of analysis using the data provided inside Tableau. And then at the end is that how can we give the information in real time manner as much as possible, and so that the management can really make more decisions faster. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Billie, I'm going to stick with you on the next one. Especially because there are a couple of aspects there that are very important at this time. One thing was the effect of pandemic itself on business continuity, and the other one, like you said, that everybody, the data or the data has to be democratized so that everyone in the bank can use it. So, especially with the lockdown and work from home, did you face data continuity challenges, and did data somehow help you overcome those challenges in Bank Mandiri?
Honestly speaking, I think since the pandemic, Tableau has become a centralized platform for the bank, right? To basically see the performance of the bank financially. How do we make decisions in terms of our liquidity, right? We are facing. We should track our liquidity monitoring, for example, right? Our risk going forward, and at the end, one of the very most important to actually tracking the capacity in the bank, right? Working from home, working from office, and et cetera, right? So I think we prepare in a way that Tableau becoming the central platform for the bank to see every angle of the performance of the bank, from the financial all the way to our employees' performance, right? So I think it really helps because now we can see it in a real time way, not just 1 week lag, right? So really we make a very good impact in terms of our information management and especially using Tableau. Yeah.
Perfect. So Dion, coming to you, how is AIA Singapore today using data to enhance the same customer experience, right? So Billie spoke about two ends of the spectrum. So from a customer standpoint, how is that experience being enhanced in AIA Singapore?
So I think for us, what we do is we have a lot of customer data. We have a lot of, and then we add data to that as well from external parties to get an understanding of the demographics that we're dealing with within the organisation and different segments. We also have the AIA Vitality Program, where we understand people's like physical activities and some of the activities that they're actually doing when they're sort of on their phones and those kind of things. So through surveys and those kind of things. So we sort of collate all that data together, create sort of segmentation and personas, and that allows us, like I said before, to create the right product propositions so that people are getting the right products in their time. Because it's AIA's aim for people to live healthier, longer, better lives. And I think a big part of that is understanding our customers and what their needs are and their sort of wellness, that kind of thing, particularly at this time. Through surveys and that kind of thing, and then sort of bringing that back into offering the right products back to customers for agents to sell.
Perfect. And what about on the other side, right? Which is the actual adoption of analytics itself. And I know you've been in the industry for a long time, right? So how have you seen, the adoption and usage of analytics change, over the period, over the last few years, and where do you see it going from where it is today?
Yeah, sure. It's a funny question. I like that because I remember when I first started, I was a financial modeler and I was sitting in the corner with a bunch of other guys and people just give us the numbers. Whereas now it's like you're in the right meetings and you go and presenting the numbers, right? So it's really evolved to the point where people like in Exco are talking sort of, data analytics and, AI, and you're like, oh, okay. So it's really evolved over that time, which is awesome. We always thought it was going to, and so it's good to see it there now. And so it's cutting through everybody as well within the organisation, from the new starter that might be a graduate, they're quite data savvy, to the person that's been in the company for about 30 years. They really need to get data savvy. So we educate throughout the organisation with the help of Tableau. We're getting Tableau doctors in and that kind of thing to help out different staff within the organisation that are actually looking to learn and build out their dashboarding skills more so. We offer training. We also have our own sort of data guru program, which we offer, and we have regular user group catch-ups as well, which is great. And I think like in the future, that stuff's going to become more and more prevalent. Already I'm starting to notice that, internally there's all these courses for people to learn a little bit more about data if it's not a part of their active role at the moment. So that's really good. And I just see that evolving even more. So it's going to be another language. It's going to be the same way that we use Outlook or something like that in our day-to-day lives for email. It's going to be that we're going to need to know how to use data through tools such as Tableau. So I see that being really big. And I think like also with the future as well, I'd encourage people to think even bigger because it's moving so fast. Sometimes in the mindsets we think, oh no, we'll just do this little piece of work and that's going to be okay to get us through. But by the time you do that piece of work, there's obviously another 5 questions that come from that, but then the amount of data that's coming through, you have to keep scaling up, and that usually involves a new server, a migration to the cloud, all these kind of things. So if you're on that early journey, I would say sort of go quite large because it's coming. It's just inevitable if you've got the money spent it, I guess. Yeah.
Perfect. Billie, how do you see the same thing happening, and something unique that you see in your geography, right? So how do you see Tableau, or rather, the adoption of Tableau, usage of Tableau, and where do you see usage of analytics in the future?
A few things that we actually been doing, especially having Tableau with us, right? I think one is we have a data analytics course program where we actually teaching not only my internal team, but also a few high potential in the bank. So what we do is actually we teach them what is the basic understanding of data, all the way to how do we visualize it and how do we analyze it based on the visualizations, right? So that's number one. Number two, I think we have a similar thing like Dion as well. We have a Mandiri Tableau user group where, as a community, to basically do some sharing from tips and tricks. How do we overcome some challenges if we want to show things that it never been visualized before. All those kind of knowledge. I think we have it regularly. And the last thing is actually doing some marketing for the internal team, for the internal group in the bank, right? And then from the management all the way to the branches, right? I think this is the most difficult, the most challenging part, where everybody have some different tastes, right, on seeing a dashboard, right? So but what we can do is actually how do we influence them to say that, this is the right thing if you want to show balances from pie chart to a bar chart, right? Those kind of things, right? I think those are the things that me and the team are really promoting, how we are transforming into a reporting look to a dashboard look, and really showing them that having a dashboard look is really more powerful than having just a reporting in Excel, for example, right? So I think those are a few initiatives that we do, and hopefully it's a journey, and hopefully 2-3 years down the road we can really see an impact not only a head office but also all the way to branches. They have the same capability and showing the same result as well. Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I have one last question for both of you.
Yep.
And this is to do with your experience, and I know there are a lot of customers who will be watching this, a lot of listeners here who would either be using Tableau already or might be looking at using Tableau in the future. And we all know that there are three aspects in the Tableau world, right? You have the business team, you have the IT team, and then you have somebody who's actually developing content. So what is the one advice that you would have for three of these different personas on what they should do to get the most out of Tableau? Billie, I'm going to start with you, then move on to Dion, and then we can wrap up the session.
I think so. If we when we implement Tableau, right? I think we have me as a data analytics team. We partner with an IT team. That's number one thing that we should partner. I think the most important thing that I think having the same understanding about the platform itself. That's number one. And number two, how do we govern the data to make sure that there is no data integrity issues, right? The quality is good. And the last thing is, how do we maintain the platform itself to make sure that there is no problem from the connection perspective, and it's not the platform itself is always run in a good conditions, right? I think that's what the agreement that we have to make with an IT team. And the business team is actually having an understanding of, this is not a reporting, this is not MIS, but this is dashboard, right? How do you want to see your business going forward? What do you want to see? What are the strategy? What are the business strategy that you want to have for the next 1 or 2 years, right? From there, we are helping them to design the right dashboard with the correct information in place, and really the business team can also do a slice and dice, or really can analyze it based on the dashboard provided, right? So I think that are something that we have to teach them, and we have to really sharing knowledge as well, and we getting some knowledge from them as well. Just so that is the most challenging part actually with the business team. So I think that's something that I can see based on the experience that I have, from the beginning that we're starting to use Tableau until now, and again, what I can see as a challenges going forward for the next 2-3 years. Yeah.
Billie, Dion, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think like as a company, as an enterprise, you really need that exco buy-in, right? So you really need them to support the initiatives that you're doing, which is like really imperative. And then with that, I mean, when we look at the enterprise, we want to look at it. I mean, for us, we're very fortunate. We've got a supportive CTO, and the culture between both the IT team and the sort of the data analytics teams is still quite open and friendly and open, and there's trust and all those kind of things, because sometimes there can be walls that are put between the two, but we're fortunate we've got that culture. So if you can try to harness that culture, that'd be great. From a governance perspective, like Billie said before, like you want to make sure you've got the right data, so you're not getting questions and getting that governed right so that it's accurate. And then from a data management perspective, I think it's key that you sort of get your data in order and build for efficiency. Make sure that you've got all the data that you need for Tableau dashboarding, potentially in sort of one semantic layer, or in a couple of like tables that you can use and join and make that fast enough. And get the right infrastructure as well that's built to scale, so the right servers and that kind of thing. And ideally in the cloud if you can, because like I said before, it's only going to get bigger. And then I guess, it's when it comes down to the data analytics piece within sort of Tableau and the BI side of things, is educating the users quite well and just making sure that everybody's sort of up to speed on how to use Tableau. And the community groups like we spoke about earlier, they're really, really handy, and that helps everybody else to get to know each other and help each other as well. So having potentially like a wiki or a blog or something like that can really help, offering tips and tricks and that kind of thing, and always sort of be open. Not everybody's been doing it for 14 years, so you have to be open to the newbies that come up to you and ask you, how do I change a color? How do I do these things? So it's just being open-minded as well. So I think if you've got the right strategy as a company coming from the top, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially now that with the pandemic and work from home, having a community just helps learn so much better. Thank you so much for that. And I can't believe we are at time already. This conversation went fast, but we hope there are some helpful takeaways for how you can continue to work towards using data in an agile environment, essentially to take fast and, more importantly, informed decisions. The event is not over though. There are lots of great activities still available, from small group discussions at the roundtables to interactive activities, and of course, additional resources to check out in the data village, especially use case that we have published for both Bank Mandiri and AIS Singapore. With that, thank you so much, Billie and Dion, for your time. This was really informative, and it was a real pleasure to have you on this discussion. And thanks so much, everyone in the audience, for attending and participating. Stay safe, stay healthy.